The coffee cup in front of me sat like a loaded gun. I should have realized something was wrong the moment Nathan handed it to me. With that familiar smile he always used when he said I only got promoted by luck, that I shouldn't let success go to my head. It was the same smile 3 months ago when I woke up in the hospital, the doctors telling me I had food poisoning. But it was the smell today that sent a chill down my spine suite, yet tinged with something harsh and chemical, like bitter almonds. I'd learned about cyanide in college chemistry. The professor said only some people could smell it, quote, and I, unfortunately, was one of them. "Drink up, darling," Nathan said, sitting down across from me. His mother, Margaret, sat between us, her lips pursed as always. She'd been living with us for the past 6 months. Ever since the accident that broke her hip hand gave her a perfect excuse to monitor my every move. "The coffee's getting cold," she said, her voice sharp as a blade. "Nathan went to the trouble of making it special for you." I raised the cup to my lips, but didn't drink. I studied my husband's face over the rim of his eyes too. Bright, fixed on my mouth. His hand clenched, knuckles white asterisk, I didn't drink. Instead, I gently set the coffee cup down, as if savoring its aroma a moment longer. I looked up, smiling at Nathan. "Can I grab a napkin?" I asked, standing without, waiting for an answer. I walked quickly to the kitchen, keeping my face calm while my heart pounded. Once out of their sight, I placed my coffee cup on the counter, scanning the room. On the shelf was an identical cup. I grabbed it, filled it with cold water, and swapped them. The suspect cup now sat on the shelf, and the safe one was in my hand. I returned to the dining room, holding the old cup, my eyes locked on Nathan's expression. He watched me intently, as if calculating something. "Thanks for waiting," I said, sitting down. "Mother, would you like to try this coffee?" Nathan made it a bit different today. Margaret raised an eyebrow. "I don't drink coffee in the morning. You know that?" I nodded. "Right? I forgot." I brought the cup to my lips, inhaling deeply. No bitter almond smell. I touched my lips to the rim, pretending to sip, then set it down. "Really good," I said. "Bit strong, but it's got depth." Nathan looked unsettled. Something was off in his eyes, a flicker of confusion mixed with worry. He said nothing, just nodded and stood, saying he had to get ready for work. When the door closed behind him, Margaret spoke. "You should be grateful to have a devoted husband, like Nathan. Not many men are that thoughtful." I looked at her. "Yes, I know. I'm truly lucky." But inside, a different feeling was rising, not gratitude, but suspicion and anger. Asterisk, I went upstairs to the bathroom, rinsed my mouth thoroughly, and opened the drawer, pulling out the cyanide test strip I'd bought weeks ago after noticing strange symptoms. I dipped it into the coffee left in the original cup, just a bit of liquid clinging to the inside. Within seconds, a red line appeared. My grip tightened. No doubt now, they were poisoning me, and this time I wouldn't let myself be the victim. I sat silently in the room, still clutching the test strip. A chill crawled up my spine as I realized how many times I'd narrowly escaped death without knowing. The unexplained dizziness, the nausea after meals, and Nathan's feigned concern. Always ready to catch me when I stumbled, only to tell everyone I was frail, that I was depressed. Asterisk, but this time I wasn't afraid. I was angry. Angry for trusting him. Angry for believing Margaret genuinely needed my care. Angry for turning down promotions to please my husband and be a proper daughter-in-law. No, this had to end. I grabbed my phone and opened the surveillance app. 3 weeks ago, I discreetly installed a small camera in the kitchen, hidden behind a fake plant. The footage loaded grainy, but clear enough. At 6:42 a.m., Nathan entered, carefully pulling a small vial from his pocket and dripping a few drops of clear liquid into my coffee cup. He did it silently, practiced, like it was routine. I trembled. I quietly saved the video and uploaded it to a private Google Drive account Nathan didn't know about. Asterisk, next, I planned. I couldn't confront him directly. The police wouldn't believe me without solid evidence and an airtight story. I needed to know why. Money? Inheritance? An affair? I started tracking Nathan's behavior. That evening, he said he had to work, late at the hospital, but I knew he wasn't on shift. I hired a trusted ride-hailing driver to follow him. An hour later, the driver texted, Nathan was at a boutique hotel on the city outskirts, room 504. With a woman, I asked for photos. And then I got them, Nathan and a brunette woman about 10 years younger than me. She wore a black dress, petite frame. In the images, they weren't just entering the hotel together, they were embracing, kissing, unmistakable. I didn't feel pain, just the pieces starting to fit. Who was she? A lover? An accomplice? Or the reason he wanted me gone? The next day, I asked a friend at a notary office to check some records. Nathan had secretly transferred part of our assets to a shell company, the company's director. An unfamiliar name, but the registered address matched the woman's apartment from the photos. I exhaled. No doubt now. Nathan didn't just want to leave me. He wanted to erase me from his life, literally. Asterisk, and he wasn't doing it alone. I started documenting every action, every sign, every clue I gathered, not just for myself, but as a safeguard for the worst-case scenario. If I disappeared, someone would know I didn't take my own life. Someone would know I was harmed. Sent a copy of the journal to a secure email set to auto-forward to my lawyer if I didn't log in within 3 days. But I wasn't going to let it come to that. The next morning, I went to the kitchen as usual. Margaret was already at the dining table reading the newspaper like always. Her face was cold, impassive, as if nothing was amiss. I looked at her, suspicion gnawing at me. Did she know? Or was she part of the plan? Nathan left early. I asked, pouring water. She didn't look at me. He said he had a morning surgery. Looked exhausted. I nodded, then glanced at the newspaper in her hands. A corner of a receipt peeked out a pharmacy bill. Buyer, Margaret. Item, dimethyl sulfoxide, common solvent. A carrier that makes cyanide absorb more easily into the body. I stepped closer, picking up the receipt as if by accident. What's this for, Mother? She glanced at me. Medicine for my hip. Doctor prescribed it. Problem? No, just curious. I folded the receipt and slipped it into my pocket. She knew I was certain. She knew everything, and she was. Helping Nathan, that afternoon, I met Emma, my best friend from college. A former lawyer turned internal investigator for a major insurance firm. I told her everything. Showed her the video, the hotel photos, and the pharmacy receipt. Emma was silent for a long time. You need to leave that house now, she said, as soon as possible. No, I replied, not yet. I need one final piece to prove it's not just Nathan, but Margaret too. I want to expose them all. Emma looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But I knew if I left now, I'd never get justice. Not just for me, but for anyone else who'd been hurt like this. That evening, I swapped my phone's SIM card with one Emma gave me. I created an anonymous email and sent the video of Nathan spiking the coffee to him with no note attached. 10 minutes later, he called. Isla, did you get an email? Kept my voice calm. What email? Nothing, he said quickly. Probably spam. I hung up. He was scared, and I needed to use that. The next morning, I woke early and prepared breakfast as usual. But this time, I hid a small recorder under the dining table. When Nathan walked in, I said, "We need to talk." He froze. About that woman and the liquid you put in my coffee. Both Nathan and Margaret went rigid. A heavy silence fell. Then Margaret snapped, "You're insane." I looked at her. "No, Mother, I'm just surviving." I pressed record. In an instant, Margaret's face darkened. She rose from her chair as if to snatch the recorder from my hand. But I'd anticipated that. The recorder was just bait. I'd already activated a microphone on another phone hidden in a vase on the kitchen shelf. Everything was being captured, audio and video. Nathan sat frozen, his eyes darting. He wasn't the type to lose control easily, but this time, he was clearly scared. What are you talking about, Isla? Nathan said, his voice trembling. There's no liquid. You're paranoid. You need a doctor. I gave a faint smile. Stop pretending, Nathan. I have the video of you spiking my coffee. I have pictures of you with that girl at the hotel. I have the receipt for the assets you transferred. Fight. Die. Do you think the police won't find those? He went silent. Margaret slowly sat back down, her eyes vacant. She didn't speak for a long moment, then said, I did it all for my son. He chose the wrong person. I knew it, but I didn't want his life ruined over a mistake. I looked at her, bitter. A mistake. I'm a human being, not a mistake. I loved him, cared for you, gave up my career, and this is how you repay me. Margaret sighed. Love. You loved him so much you trapped him in a cage. He wasn't happy, Isla. He needed freedom. No, he needed money. And so did she, that woman. Nathan shot up. Enough. What do you want, Isla? I meant his. Gaze unflinching. I want you to sign the divorce papers. I want our assets divided fairly by law. I want you out of my life, leaving no trace. If not, I'll send all this evidence to the police, the press, and social media. Asterisk, he stepped closer, softening his tone. You don't have to do this. We can settle privately. You know, I never meant to hurt you. It was Mother's idea. Margaret stared at her son, stunned. Nathan, I laughed. What a model family. Turning on each other now. I placed my phone on the table and played the video of Nathan pouring liquid into my coffee. As the footage rolled, Nathan's head dropped and Margaret's hands clenched into fists. I have copies stored in multiple places, in case you're wondering, I said coldly, and I hired a lawyer 3 weeks ago. Finally, Nathan said, fine, I'll sign. But you have to promise not to turn in my mother. Turned? To Margaret? Do you regret it? She didn't answer. Her eyes remained proud, but her lips trembled slightly. I nodded. I don't need your confession. I just need both of you out of my life. What followed was a long, exhausting stretch of days with lawyers, paperwork, and court appearances. Nathan tried to negotiate, but failed. My evidence was too strong. In the end, he agreed to the divorce and relinquished all assets. Margaret moved to a nursing home in silence. I didn't see her off. One afternoon, as I closed the door to the house for the last time, I lingered on the threshold. A breeze swept through the porch. The place I'd once thought was my sanctuary was now just a memory. But I didn't cry. I only smiled because I had survived. I moved to a small apartment in the suburbs, not spacious, not luxurious, but enough for me to breathe again after months of being suffocated by fear and betrayal. Each morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the window, brewing my own coffee, no longer worrying who had touched it before me. I learned to walk alone in the park, watching people pass by without feeling like I was playing a role in someone else's life. I was free, but the wounds didn't fade easily. Every phone ring made me flinch. Every glimpse of a man in a white coat made my heart skip a beat. I started seeing a therapist, not because I was weak, but because I wanted to understand why I'd trusted the wrong person, loved too blindly, and forgiven too many times. She didn't judge me, she just listened. And slowly, I learned not to judge myself. One day, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. Subject, apology. I hesitated for a few minutes, then opened it. Isla, I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to say I was wrong. Everything I did, deceiving, betraying, staying silent while my mother acted, was my choice. No one forced me. I was weak, cowardly, and you didn't deserve to bear the consequences. I've lost everything. My career, my reputation, and someone who truly loved me. I hope you find peace. Nathan asterisk, I read it over and over. No anger, no joy. Just an odd feeling like a final door closing without a slam. I didn't reply. Instead, I spent my time rewriting my story not as a victim, but as a survivor. I started a blog sharing what I'd been through, from the covert discoveries to the sleepless nights haunted by fear. I didn't use my real name, only signing as 3 letters. I mean Isla Marie Anderson. To my surprise, hundreds of women from all over began writing to me. They shared their own tragedies being controlled, manipulated, betrayed. Some were still trapped, some had escaped. But all said they saw themselves in my story. I realized I was no longer alone. Then one day, a young woman named Clara messaged me. I'm planning to leave my husband. He hits me, but I'm scared. Reading your posts, I know I'm not crazy or weak. I'm just finding myself again. I cried not out of sadness, but because for the first time in months, I saw a purpose in my survival. I invited Clara to meet. We sat in a small cafe amidst the bustling crowd. I held her hand and said, "You deserve a life without fear." Clara nodded, tears falling silently. And I knew if my story could save even one person, everything I'd been through was worth it. Asterisk, after helping Clara escape her abusive husband and settle in a safe place, I began to realize something I'd never considered before. Perhaps the purpose of my life had changed. I was no longer a wife trying to salvage a rotten marriage. I was no longer a victim struggling to survive betrayal. I was becoming a companion for women trapped in the same pain I knew all too well. I decided to turn my blog into something real. I created a website called Rise Again, a place where women could share their stories anonymously or publicly, their choice. I partnered with legal experts, psychologists, and fellow survivors to build an online support network. Soon, the site grew from a few hundred visitors. It now had tens of thousands of monthly hits. Each time a woman messaged me saying they'd left, stood up, or come back to life, a part of my heart healed. One afternoon, I received an email from a familiar name, Margaret Whitmore. I sat in silence for a long time before opening it. I didn't know what I expected: an apology, remorse, or just closure. Isla, I've read what you've written. At first, I was angry. I thought you were slandering my family. But then I started listening. Asterisk, I'm not the woman I was. I'm in a nursing home now, reflecting on my life every day, asking myself, did I destroy something beautiful out of pride? I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I've read. And I understand. Margaret, for the first time, I felt relief. Not because she was sorry, but because I knew I hadn't held on to bitterness, sought revenge, or carried hatred in my heart. I'd chosen a different path, healing. I printed the letter, framed it in wood, and hung it on the wall by my desk, a reminder. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't making others suffer, but living a life free of vengeance. Months later, I was invited to speak at a TEDx event about the power of survival. I hesitated, never seen myself as an inspirational figure. But then I remembered Clara's eyes, the messages from other women, and my own past self, lost. In a cold house I'd called a home, stepped onto the stage facing hundreds of people, and began. I used to think silence was the way to preserve happiness. I was afraid that speaking out would cost me everything, but the truth is silence was what made me lose myself. When I finished, the room stood and applauded. I didn't cry or tremble. I just smiled. Because for the first time, I wasn't speaking as a victim. I was speaking as someone reborn. 2 years have passed since I walked away from Nathan and from the person I used to be now. I live in a sunlit apartment surrounded by photos of the women I've helped. On my bookshelf are journals, handwritten letters, and thank you notes from around the world. They're proof of something I never thought possible. That pain, when shared, can become strength. One no longer seeks validation. I don't need apologies. My new life isn't revenge for the past, it's proof that I chose to live, not just survive. Clara is now studying psychology, dreaming of one day helping others like her, like me. Each time she texts me updates about her life, I feel like I'm planting seeds of hope, quietly. Once, while sitting in my usual cafe, a stranger approached me. She said nothing, just hugged me and whispered, "You don't know me, but your story saved me." I was speechless. Because I knew I'd once needed someone like that. A hand to pull me from the darkness, a voice whispering, "You're not crazy, you're just growing stronger." If you're hearing this story and it touches something in your heart, please remember, you are not alone. You are not weak. You are not wrong for wanting to be loved rightly. And if you're not ready to walk away today, that's okay. Just know, tomorrow is still there, and you always have the right to choose yourself again whenever you're ready. I am Isla, and I rose from the ruins. If this story has touched your heart, please hit like to spread the message of healing and hope to more people. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder. You are not alone. And don't forget to subscribe to the Real Moments channel to join us on a journey of discovering authentic, moving, and resilient life stories. Because sometimes, just one story at the right moment can save an entire life.